Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. He told me Uncle Chase was cool. The moment Colt said it, my stomach dropped. We had just come back from picking him up at school. I had surprised him, showed up at the gates without warning. First time home in 5 months. The kid sprinted into my arms like he always did, arms tied around my neck, face buried into my shoulder. I lived for that moment. We were 10 minutes into the drive when he said it. Uncle Chase is really cool, Dad. He lets me play games on his phone even though Mom says no sometimes. I blinked. The road blurred for half a second. Uncle who? Uncle Chase, Colt repeated like it was obvious. He's Mom's friend. He comes over when you are gone. I swallowed hard, staring ahead. Oh yeah, I said, keeping my tone light. How often does he come around? Colt kicked his feet a little, thinking. Lots of times. He brought pizza last Friday. Mom says he's helping her with stuff. And she laughs a lot when he is around. More than when you are home. That last part hit harder than I expected. I did not say anything after that. Colt hummed some cartoon song in the back seat, while I quietly rearranged the next 6 months of my life in my head. Because something was wrong. Deeply wrong. When we got home, I hugged Taryn like nothing was off. She kissed my cheek. Said she missed me. Said dinner was in the oven. I watched her. Too calm. Too rehearsed. I knew how people lied. I had interrogated enemies in Afghanistan. You learn to hear the hesitation, the breath between words. And I heard it in hers. She asked, "What's wrong?" Wait. If this story gave you chills or made you think twice about trust, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button to support the channel, and subscribe if you never want to miss another jaw-dropping tale. We drop new stories every week that'll leave you speechless. Join the family, because here, every story hits different. Now, let's dive back into the story. I smiled. Nothing. Just tired. And that was the last honest thing I told her for a while. But in that moment, one question kept burning through my brain like fire through drywall. Who the hell is Chase, and why is my son calling him uncle? The first time I saw Chase, I knew. It was 2 days after Colt dropped that bomb in the car. I waited, observed, played the quiet husband. Then Friday came around, and just like Colt said, pizza night. Taryn told me she had invited a friend over to meet me. Said he helped her with some paperwork for the house, something about refinancing. I said, sure. Looking forward to it. When Chase walked through the door, he gave me a bright, clean-cut smile. Designer jeans, collared shirt, expensive watch. Confident handshake. Too confident. Dalton, right? Heard a lot about you, man. Navy SEAL. That is badass. Appreciate it, I said, eyes locked on his. His grip was firm, meant to impress. I gave him nothing. He laughed a little too loud. Your boy's awesome, by the way. Colt and I are, like, best buds. My jaw clenched. We sat through an awkward dinner. Colt chattered on like Chase was Santa Claus and Spider-Man rolled into one. Taryn looked relaxed, almost smug. Chase leaned back, sipping wine like he owned the place. You have done some serious serving, huh? Must be tough being gone all the time. That was bait. I nodded. It can be. But I always come back. He smiled, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. He was testing the boundaries, seeing what I knew. Later, while Colt was in the other room, I caught them exchanging a look. It was subtle, too subtle for anyone who had not seen betrayal up close. But I had. In combat, in interrogations, in the eyes of men who were about to lie to your face. Chase left at 9:45. I watched him walk to his car from the upstairs window. Taryn was in the kitchen. I stood there in the dark, arms crossed, staring down at that man's back like I had stared at targets in scope range. He did not know it yet, but he had just stepped into my war zone. Saturday morning, I made breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, the whole spread. Taryn walked in wearing one of my shirts. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong. Colt was still asleep. We were alone. I asked casually, so, who exactly is Chase? She looked up from pouring orange juice. I told you. He's a financial advisor. Helped me figure out some mortgage stuff while you were gone. Funny. Colt said he sleeps over. The glass paused halfway to her lips. I saw the shift in her eyes. Less than a second. Then she laughed, quick and high-pitched. He must have misunderstood. Chase never slept here. Maybe he meant a movie night? He was over late once or twice. Right. She studied me. Why are you being weird? I'm just curious, I said. I was gone a long time. Trying to catch up. Well, do not make things weird, Dalton. You always do this when you come home. You act like everyone is out to get you. I nodded slowly. You are right. She blinked. Suspicious now. What does that mean? It means I will stop asking questions. No point poking around where I do not belong, right? She crossed her arms. You were being paranoid. Maybe I was. Maybe I was not. Later that day, I checked her phone. Nothing suspicious. But I knew better. I checked the trash folder. The deleted messages were gone too. All of them. So I went to her car. Glove box. Beneath the manual, I found a folded napkin. It said, "Last night was unreal. I still taste you." See, in her handwriting. Next time, the bed. No more couch adventures, winky face, tea. I stared at it for a long time. My pulse never changed. My breathing stayed level. Because this was no longer about a broken marriage. This was a battlefield. And I had just found my first piece of enemy intel. I stopped sleeping in the same bed as her. Told her it was because of jet lag. Told her I needed time to reset my sleep cycle. She did not argue. Just shrugged like it was convenient. Started going to bed earlier. Alone. I slept in the guest room. Lights off. Eyes wide open. Every night, I waited to hear her footsteps. But nothing came. No checking on me. No late-night conversation. Nothing. She had already emotionally moved on. That was perfect. I wanted her to think I was breaking. That I had become a shadow of the man I used to be. She needed to believe I was weak. Because when people think you are no longer a threat, they stop hiding. She started texting more. Smiling at her screen. Locking her phone whenever I entered the room. I never said a word. At dinner, Colt mentioned Uncle Chase again. This time, something new. He let me ride in his car when we got ice cream on Tuesday. I looked up. Tuesday was the night she told me she had a late Zumba class. Taryn froze. I caught it. Just a flicker. She was learning how to lie better. But I had been trained to detect lies in life or death scenarios. She could never outpace me. She smiled, overly bright. Oh yeah, Chase ran into us there. Total coincidence. I gave a tight nod. Small world. Later that night, I opened a hidden compartment in my closet, a locked steel box from my active days. Inside was a burner phone, a miniature voice recorder, and a USB key I had once used to extract blackmail leverage from a corrupt tribal leader. I was not planning a fight. I was planning a war. And the best wars are won in silence. The next morning, I made a call I had not made in 3 years. Brody, I need to sit down. Private. There was a pause. You good, man? He asked. This your voice, but you sound colder. I am good. Just need some clarity on something. Brody met me that evening in an old tool-and-die warehouse on the edge of town. Retired SEAL. Worked private now. Surveillance, digital forensics, security contracting. The guy could clone a phone in 5 minutes and track a SIM across 3 counties. We had bled together overseas. Saved each other's lives twice. No questions asked. When I showed him the burner text from Taryn and the napkin, he just whistled. Damn. You sure this is not just emotion talking? I stared at him. Would I be here if I was emotional? He nodded. All right. You want to catch her or bury her? Both. He grinned. Now we are talking. We built a plan. First, clone her phone. Quietly. Brody gave me a software stick disguised as a charger. Second, monitor Chase. Find out who he really is. Brody started digging that night. Third, gather physical evidence. Photos. Locations. Conversations. Every detail mattered. I wanted dates, times, places. I wanted their lies to be documented from every angle. Back at home, I plugged in the software stick. It installed quietly. Within 24 hours, I had access to everything on her phone. Photos, calls, messages, even deleted ones. She had sent him photos from our bedroom. I stared at them, not because of the pain that had calcified, but to understand the battlefield. This was not a love story gone wrong. This was something else, something strategic. Dangerous. She was hiding something bigger than just an affair, and I was going to find it. 2 nights later, I told Taryn I was heading to a VA support group. She smiled like it was good for me. Said, "Take all the time you need, babe. Healing takes a while." I kissed her on the cheek and walked out the door. I drove 2 blocks, parked, and walked back. I had seen Chase's truck parked a street over. Not in front of the house, of course. That would have been too obvious. It was 8:27 p.m. I waited in the shadows. Watched as Chase strolled up the sidewalk. Hoodie pulled over his head like he was just another jogger. Slipped around to the back. Taryn let him in through the patio door. By 8:34 p.m., the lights dimmed. I walked to his truck. Nobody in sight. No neighbors outside. No cameras on this side of the street. I slid a glove on, popped the passenger door open, and checked the glove box. There it was. Another napkin. "You make me feel alive. Like a real woman again. Your arms are the only place I feel safe." He is numb. Like a robot. "I need you." Every sentence was a nail in a coffin, not mine. Theirs. I took pictures. Every corner. Every crease. I left everything exactly as it was. Closed the door. Walked away. I did not need to destroy them in the dark. I needed them to destroy themselves in the light. I just had to keep pretending I was broken long enough for them to finish building their house of cards. Because I was not coming with wind. I was coming with fire. I had not planned to cry. But sometimes it hits you in quiet moments. It was after midnight. I was sitting in the garage on a folding chair, lights off, just the dim orange glow from a single bulb above the workbench. The air was still, thick with dust and oil. Colt Spike was leaning against the far wall, one of his little drawings still taped to the fridge out here. That is when it hit me. Not the betrayal. Not the affair. Him. My son. The kid who still drew our family with all 3 of us holding hands. Who smiled like the world was good, because to him it was. Because he trusted me to protect it. And I had not. Not yet. The tears came fast. Silent. Hot. I buried my face in my hands and let it happen. No sound. Just shaking. I did not hear the door creak open. "Daddy." I froze. Wiped my face fast and looked up. Colt stood there in his socks, holding his favorite stuffed bear. His eyes were wide, confused. "Hey, buddy," I said quickly, forcing a smile. "What are you doing up?" He walked over. "Why were you crying?" I opened my arms. He came into them without hesitation. "Sometimes grown-ups get sad too," I whispered. "Are you sick?" "No," I said softly. "Just a little tired in the heart." He leaned against me. "Is it because Mom is always with Uncle Chase?" My body went rigid. He did not say it to be cruel. He said it like it was the sky being blue. I held him tighter. "You do not have to worry about anything, all right?" I said, kissing the top of his head. "I am going to fix everything. I promise." And I meant it. Not for me. For him. Taryn made French toast the next morning. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and syrup, and she moved like a woman completely at ease. She even sang to herself a little, flipping slices on the skillet like it was just another happy Saturday morning in the Briggs household. She handed me a plate with a smile. "Extra crispy, the way you like." I smiled back. "Thanks." She sat across from me, sipping coffee from her favorite mug, the one Colt painted at daycare. The same mug she had once cried over when it shipped. She looked me in the eye and said, "I feel like we are doing better. Like, reconnecting." I chewed slowly, nodded. "Maybe we are." Lying was easy when you had nothing left to lose. "I have been thinking," she said. "Maybe we could take a weekend trip. Just the 2 of us." I swallowed. "Yeah." Chase said he could watch Colt. That hit like a hammer, but I kept my face still. "Generous of him," I said flatly. She missed the shift in my tone. "He is great with Colt. He really loves kids." I nodded. "Seems like a real stand-up guy." She reached across the table and touched my hand. "I know I have not always been emotionally present, but I want to work on us." "Me too." She smiled and leaned in to kiss my cheek. Her lips were warm, soft, familiar, but her scent had changed. A different perfume. One I had smelled in Chase's truck. Lies tasted like sugar when served with pancakes and fake affection. I stood up. "I am going to the store. Need anything?" She shook her head. "Nope. Just come back soon." "I always do," I said and walked out. In the driveway, I called Brody. We are moving up the timeline. I had been watching her gym routine for 2 weeks. Every Monday and Thursday, same schedule, same bag, same locker. What stood out was how she always kept her gym bag close. Never in the locker. Never far from reach. That was not workout gear. That was paranoia. I waited for the right moment. Thursday, 6:12 p.m. She was in the back studio taking a yoga class. I had already seen her go in. The door closed. I walked in like I belonged. Hoodie up, duffel bag slung low. I headed straight to her bag, sitting behind the benches, half-zipped. Inside, wedged between her towel and leggings, was a small black phone. Sleek. No case. No stickers. And no lock screen photo. A burner. I powered it up. No password. Idiot. It buzzed instantly with a message. Chase, that outfit last night still has me messed up. I will be thinking about it while I meet the board, LOL. Attached was a photo. She was wearing lingerie I had never seen before. Not once. I checked the photo history. Hundreds of messages. Some just texts. Some far worse. But it was not just sex. There were money transfers. Notes about fake rental listings. Discussions about flipping properties using forged documents. Even one mention of a Shell LLC. It hit me. This was not just cheating. It was criminal. Fraud. Identity manipulation. Possibly laundering. And she was in it. Deep. I heard a laugh from the yoga room. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. Walked out with my heart steady and mind sharp. Called Brody again. It is not just an affair anymore. He asked how bad. Worse than we thought. She is not the victim in this. She is a co-conspirator. And now? Now I had proof. Brody's garage looked like something between a bunker and a tech startup. Cables, monitors, encrypted laptops, a whiteboard filled with flowcharts and timelines. He had already mapped out every location Chase had visited in the past month using license plate recognition and public cameras. Now, with the burner phone data, we were connecting dots that were never meant to be seen together. Look at this, he said, zooming in on a transaction trail. 3 separate accounts, all under fake names. But the deposits match the same IP pings from your house Wi-Fi. Same timestamps as her texts. So she is doing more than just helping, I said. She is in it. No doubt, Brody replied. You think she knows the depth of Chase's game? I think she knows enough. She is not stupid. He nodded. This is bigger than adultery, Dalton. You sure you want to go all the way? I looked him straight in the eye. She used my son's trust. Lied in his face. Brought a criminal into our home. I am not stopping halfway. Brody pointed to the whiteboard. We need more voice recordings, location matchups, proof of intent. You want this airtight when it drops. I want it undeniable, I said. I want it so tight that when I finally press play, they do not even blink before they fall apart. He nodded. Then we need to bait them. Make them think you are drifting. Checked out. Let them slip. I can do that. Brody grinned. You always were the long game type. I picked up a marker, circled a date on the calendar. Colt's birthday. 3 weeks, I said. That is your D-Day? No, I said, staring at the date. That is the funeral. It was raining that Tuesday. Light drizzle. I was tailing Chase's truck from a distance, 3 car lengths back, tinted windows down, nothing suspicious. He pulled into a gas station just outside town. I waited across the street, engine idle, windshield wipers steady. When he got out, he tossed a gym bag onto the passenger seat. That is when I saw it. Through the gap in the zipper, something colorful, paper, folded. Curious, I got out, walked up when he went inside, pretending to check my tire. A quick glance was all I needed. It was Colt's drawing. One he made last week. Our family, stick figures smiling, our names written in big, messy crayon letters. Except, my name was scribbled out. Next to Taryn and Colt? Chase. I froze. Heat rose in my chest, but I kept my hand steady. He came out seconds later. I stepped away just in time, back to my car. As he drove off, I sat still. She had given him my son's drawing. Not just slept with him. Not just lied. She gave him a piece of Colt. A piece of innocence. Something that belonged only in our home, on our fridge, where it had always hung before she took it down last week. That was when I stopped doubting. Not just about their relationship. About what I had to do. It was no longer about revenge. It was about reclaiming something stolen. She had said she was going to a conference in Austin. A 2-day leadership summit. Women in business. Very official. I told her, sounds inspiring. Have fun. She packed light. Her eyes avoided mine the whole morning. I kissed her goodbye, watched her car pull out of the driveway. Then I pulled out behind her 20 minutes later. I let her get on the highway. Tracked her for miles. Brody had the drone ready, silent, discreet, locked on her car from above. She never went to Austin. She went to a boutique hotel in Wimberley. Chase was already there. I watched from the woods that evening as they walked onto the private balcony. Champagne. Music. Her laughing, draped on him like they were honeymooners. Brody was recording from a blind spot across the property. Zoomed lens. Timestamped footage. Audio picking up pieces of their conversation. You really think he has no idea? Chase asked, grinning. Taryn sipped her drink. He has not touched me in weeks. He is a ghost. Chase laughed. Good. Makes our job easier. Our job, she repeated, and kissed him. They were talking about me like I was already gone. That was the mistake. I let them celebrate. I let them get drunk on each other and on their lies. I watched the whole thing unfold. And I whispered to myself, low and steady, you have no idea who you are playing with. Taryn started wearing perfume again. Not the soft lavender I remembered. This one was sharper. Expensive. Meant to leave a trail. She had never worn it for me. Now she wore it like armor, sprayed on before she left for work, sometimes even before heading to the grocery store. I could smell it 3 rooms away, but I said nothing. Instead, I acted more distracted, forgot small things, missed appointments, ate less, slept more. She interpreted it the way she wanted to. Maybe you should talk to someone, she suggested one night, brushing her hair by the mirror. About adjusting. I mean, coming back from combat must still mess with your head, right? I looked at her reflection. Yeah, I said. There's a lot I am trying to process. She nodded like she understood. But she did not. Not even close. The more broken I appeared, the more open she became. She stopped hiding texts. Left her laptop unlocked. Brought in Chase's name casually in conversation. He says Cold Swing has really improved. Or, Chase offered to help with the deck. You know how useless you are with tools. I smiled through it. I even invited her to dinner. Candlelight. Wine. Jazz playing low. She thought I was trying to fix things. But I was studying her patterns. When she lied, she always touched her necklace. When she told the truth, she looked me directly in the eye. By the time dessert hit the table, I had 5 lies counted and 1 deleted text saved on her mirrored phone. Chase, this weekend might be the last one before we go public. You sure you're ready? Her reply, let him break first. Then we control the story. I stared at those words like they were a blueprint. And in a way, they were. Brody called me from his garage. Your girl is not just in deep, she is buried. I drove over in silence. Walked in, nodded once, and sat down in front of the triple screen setup he had rigged. Pulled her backups, scrubbed the deleted cloud data. Guess what we found? He clicked, and her email opened up. Not the one I knew. A hidden account. Tied to a dummy name. Dozens of emails. Mostly short, coded phrases. ETA confirmed. Docs ready. Funds clear. Fake buyers set. Then the one that stopped everything. 2. Chase.d.travis at secure mail subject. Final play, he will break. All soldiers break. And once he does, we will have full access to the settlement. I will play the victim. You play the hero. 1 news leak, and this is clean. We take the money and disappear. I lean back in my chair. They are planning to fake emotional abuse, Brody said. Stage a public break. Frame you. And get access to my military compensation in the divorce, I muttered. Brody nodded grimly. You are not just getting cheated on. You are getting hunted. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I stood up. We flip it. Brody raised an eyebrow. You mean? They want a break? Fine. I will give them one. A perfectly staged, completely believable spiral. I walked toward the door, already mapping out every move. But in the end, I said, they will not just lose the money. They will lose everything. I let it happen on purpose. Left my phone on the kitchen counter. Forgot, to take it with me when I went to shower. The recorder app was already running. From the bathroom, the fan on, I heard faint voices. Low, muffled, then laughter. I walked out 15 minutes later, towel around my shoulders. She was standing at the sink, phone in hand, grinning. I said nothing, just dried off and smiled. That night, I replayed the audio. Chase's voice coming through speakerphone. Sharp, confident. You really think he suspects anything? She laughed. He is so spaced out, Chase. He barely remembers what day it is. The other day he put dog food in the coffee maker. I never did. He used to be sharp, Chase said. Now he is just pitiful, like a houseplant you forget to water. He was never as strong as he wanted people to think, she replied. Underneath all that military pride, he is just empty. Silence. Then they laughed. Both of them. Loud, full-belly laughs. I listened to it twice. Not because it hurt. That part was dead now. But because I wanted to memorize the tone of her voice when she spoke about me like I was a joke. Like I was disposable. I saved the file. Named it. Final words before fire that night. I tucked Colt in. He asked if I could read the story twice. I did. Then I kissed him goodnight, turned off the light, and walked into my office. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I opened a folder titled Sequence and began writing the plan out step by step. Date, time, location, roles. Everything had to be perfect. Because now, I was not just recording evidence. I was building their ending. It was not just betrayal anymore. This was organized theft, disguised beneath dinner dates, innocent text messages, and fake smiles over breakfast. Brody dropped a folder onto the table. 3 fake LLCs. All registered under addresses tied to Chase's previous aliases. Taryn is listed as a silent partner in 2 of them. The documents were sharp, bank trails clean, but not clean enough. She knew, I said, flipping through the pages. She helped build this. Brody nodded. This is federal crime territory now. Wire fraud. Identity misrepresentation. Interstate transactions. You bring this to Homeland and they will eat it alive. No, I said. Not yet. He looked up. I do not just want them charged. I want them ruined. Publicly. Where it hurts. Brody exhaled slowly. You were playing a long game, man. Most would have lost it by now. That is the difference between a soldier and a ghost, I said. Soldiers fight. Ghosts study every breath their enemies take before they strike. I stood up and walked over to the war board on his wall, photos of Chase and Taryn, overlapping financial maps, GPS logs, hotel receipts. At the center, I placed a sticky note, control the narrative. That was the key. They were planning to flip the story, to make me look like the unstable veteran, like I snapped, to turn Colt into a sympathy pawn and themselves into the heroes. So I had to be careful. They wanted to weaponize perception. I would use it first, and when it all fell apart in front of them, I would still be standing, not screaming, just watching. We were driving home from his Little League game when Colt spoke up, voice quiet but sure. Dad, do you like Uncle Chase? The question punched harder than any sniper round I had ever dodged. I kept my hands on the wheel, eyes forward. Why do you ask that, bud? He shrugged, pulling his glove into his lap. He is around a lot. He takes me places. But sometimes, you get quiet when he is there. Like you do not like him. I forced a smile. You are pretty smart, huh? He nodded. Sometimes he talks to Mom when I am in the other room. And they whisper. But not like secret whisper. More like lie whisper. That stung. You know you can tell me anything, right? I said gently. Yeah. But sometimes I feel like if I do, something bad might happen. I pulled the truck into the driveway, shifted to park, and turned to face him. Nothing bad is going to happen, I said, serious. You are safe. Always. With me. He looked up at me, unsure. Promise. I put my hand on his shoulder. Promise on everything. He exhaled and looked down. He tried to give me a necklace one time. Said it was just a thing his dad gave him. But Mom said not to tell you. I stayed silent, letting the anger burn low in my gut where it could not be seen. A man trying to rewrite my son's identity behind my back? No. That was not just disrespect. That was war. Later that night, when Colt was asleep, I walked into my office and opened the folder labeled Exposure. Phase 2 was ready. Now I just had to wait for one more mistake. And they always make one more. The papers were ready, sealed, notarized, and waiting in my drawer. But I was not serving them yet. Timing was everything. I wanted her calm, comfortable, drunk on confidence. So I played it cool. I have been thinking, I told her one evening while we folded laundry. Maybe we should go to counseling. Just once. Try to talk things out. She looked at me surprised. You want to go? Yeah, I said, keeping my voice low. I miss when we were not this. She softened instantly. I miss it too. Lies. But necessary. She smiled, folded a shirt, and said, maybe this is the beginning of healing. In her mind, she was winning. In mine, she had already lost. I placed the divorce papers in the bottom of Colt's old toy chest. Not because I was hiding them, but because it felt right to keep endings where childhood once lived. Later that night, she left to meet a friend. I kissed her goodbye and watched her go. 10 minutes later, I met Brody down the block. He handed me a flash drive. Hotel audio. They were careless. Good, I said. Let them keep being careless. Brody watched me, then asked, Dalton, are you sure you can come back from this? I looked at him. I am not coming back. This was not a rescue mission. It was an execution. And when I served those papers, it would not be in a courtroom. It would be in a house of mirrors, surrounded by every lie they had ever told, reflected back at them until there was nowhere left to hide. It happened on a Saturday morning at Colt's team meeting. Coach Reynolds stood under the pavilion with the sign-up sheet for volunteers. I had not signed up to coach yet on purpose. Let them feel the freedom first. That is when Chase stepped up. I could help out, he said. Colt talks about baseball nonstop, and Terrence said you guys could use more hands. Coach nodded, smiled, and handed him a clipboard. I stood 10 feet away, arms crossed, watching it happen. Colt looked unsure. He stood between us, glancing at me, then at Chase, like he was waiting for one of us to say something. Chase grinned. What do you think, little man? Think I would make a good coach? Colt hesitated. My dad's already good at it. Chase laughed. Well, maybe we can both do it. He patted Colt's back and walked toward the bleachers. Taryn was watching from her car across the lot, sunglasses on, phone in hand. Recording, maybe. I walked up to the table. Quiet. Calm. Coach looked up. You want in? Yeah, I said, signing my name under assistant coach right above Chase's. He would not be the only one on that field. He wanted to play dad? Fine. Let him try. But I would be watching every pitch, every word, every breath. This was not a baseball game anymore. It was theater. And he just stepped onto my stage. Brody and I began prepping what we called the real estate trap. Chase had a pattern. He pretended to represent private buyers for upscale flips, took upfront consulting fees, then ghosted the sellers or rerouted payments to offshore shells. So we built one for him. A fake client. A property just outside Houston. An email trail, backdated with subtle typos to make it look organic. We even created a voice actor to pose as the buyer on phone calls. Taryn's name was tied to the paperwork. She was listed as a silent investor, just like the others. When the documents were ready, Brody smiled. This is a wire fraud trap waiting to spring. And it leads directly to her, I said. She signs off. She will. She always signs what Chase sends her. Then all we need is the transaction to go through. I nodded. Let her think it is just another con. Easy payday. The fake buyer agreed to transfer half the funds up front. Chase bit. Taryn forwarded the details herself. It was all logged. Every click. Every digital breadcrumb. And when the money moved, we paused it mid-transfer using a friendly contact at the bank. That freeze was the trigger. Brody smiled. When Chase goes to unfreeze it, Homeland's going to knock. I did not smile back, because it was not time yet. I wanted this to play out in public, not in silence, not with handcuffs behind closed doors. I wanted them to be seen. I began fading myself out. Less presence, less conversation, less confrontation. At home, I started missing small events, on purpose. Forgot her mom's birthday dinner. Came home late from appointments. Sat quietly in the corner during family meals. She did not ask questions. She thought I was drifting. That was the goal. The more invisible I became, the more visible she made her plans. I found a printed cruise itinerary in her purse. 2 names. Chase Daniels, Taryn Briggs, booked under a married couple's alias. Departure, 2 weeks. They were planning an exit. That night, I sat at the dining table, lights low, going over the footage again. Hotel room audio, the final play, emails, the money trail. The sting had worked. We had more than enough. I just needed the right time, the right setting, a public event, something loud, something official. Then I saw it. Chase was scheduled to speak at a private investor showcase downtown, an invite-only event for luxury property networking. And Taryn? She was listed as co-speaker. My heart did not race. My hands did not shake. I just leaned back, exhaled slow, and whispered to myself, "There you are." The rooftop was lit in soft amber, strings of lights dancing above the cocktail crowd. Glasses clinked. Jazz played low in the background. It looked like a celebration. Because it was. Taryn stood beside Chase, arm length through his, wearing a midnight blue dress that dipped low across her back. Her smile was too wide, too rehearsed. But to everyone around them, she looked like a woman in love. Proud. Radiant. They were celebrating early. Their investor event was scheduled for next week. But tonight? Tonight was the dress rehearsal. And I was watching it all from the opposite rooftop, 50 yards across, high-powered lens focused in. Brody was beside me, adjusting the signal tap. "They are not even trying to hide it anymore," he muttered. "Because they think they already won," I said. Across the way, Chase raised a glass. "To partnerships," he said, loud enough for the rooftop to hear. "To bold beginnings and clean exits." Taryn laughed, leaned in, kissed his cheek. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, unreadable. But Chase leaned in to look too. They both exchanged a quick look. "What was that?" Brody asked. "Bank alert," I said. "The frozen funds." I watched her face flicker. Just for a second. Then she smiled again. Covered it. But the cracks were showing. The trap had landed. The weight was on their chests. They just did not know where the pressure was coming from yet. I stood up. "We have them rattled," I said. Brody nodded. "You ready to finish it?" "Not yet." I stared at the couple still laughing, still toasting. "Let them have their champagne," I said. "Their fall tastes better when they are drunk on power." The file landed in my inbox at 2:43 a.m. Subject line, "Got 'em." Read every line. Sender, Dana Travis. Chase's real wife. I opened it slowly, sitting alone in my dark office. One lamp on. Whiskey untouched. My hand hovered above the mouse as I scrolled through document after document. Chase Daniels was not Chase Daniels. His real name, Trevor Darrell Coleman. For known aliases, 2 previous wives, both divorced under sealed settlements. One had filed for abuse, emotional manipulation, financial theft. Dana had found me weeks ago. She had seen his number on a call log and traced it. She had heard of Taryn, but never reached out. Until now. Because she had found the offshore accounts. Because she had finally accepted the man she married was a ghost in a custom suit. She wrote, "If he is with your wife now, he will leave her like he left the rest. But only after he drains everything. My advice, finish him before he disappears again. He is a con artist, not a man." I sat there frozen. It was worse than I thought. He was not just a fraud. He was a predator. I forwarded everything to Brody. He called within minutes. "You are sitting on a bomb," he said. "If we release this at the investor event, he does not just lose his clients. He loses everything. And her." Brody exhaled. "If she was smart, she would flip on him. But we both know she is in too deep." I stared at the screen. The image of Taryn laughing on the rooftop still burned into my mind. "She made her choice," I said. "Now she gets his fate." That night, I updated the presentation for the investor showcase. Slide 1, a photo of Chase. Slide 2, his real name. Slide 3, every lie he ever told. The days leading up to the event were easy. Too easy. Taryn walked with a new bounce in her step. Chase spent more time at our house, sitting on the porch, tossing a football with Colt like he belonged there. Colt still looked confused. Torn. He kept asking me if everything was okay. "It will be," I always said. One afternoon, Chase even offered me a beer from my own fridge. "You are quieter than usual," he said. "That war still in your head?" I smiled, cracked the bottle open. Parts of it never left. He nodded like he understood. He did not. He thought I was slipping. Fragile. Lost. That was perfect. You know, he said, leaning back in the lawn chair. You have done a good job with Colt. He is a great kid. I clenched my jaw. Thanks. He and I have a good thing going too. It is kind of natural, you know? I just watched him. No emotion. No tells. Then he leaned in a little, voice lowered. Between you and me, sometimes people grow apart. That is life. Taryn has been carrying a lot. You should give her space. He smiled again. That was the moment I knew he was not just stupid. He was arrogant. Arrogant enough to say that to my face, in my home, with my son in the house. I stood up slowly. Big day coming up, I said. Yeah. Huge, he grinned. We are going to kill it. He had no idea. I walked back inside, past Taryn in the kitchen. She smiled at me. You two getting along? Something like that. Then I went to my office, sat down, and added a new final slide to the presentation. It said, you betrayed the wrong man. The email came in the middle of the night. Subject, if she is smart, she will run. It was Dana again, Chase's actual wife. She had watched silently while he moved from one lie to the next, state to state. Now she wanted to help finish it. I stayed quiet too long, her message said. But you have a kid in the middle of this. I will testify if it comes to that. Attach were call logs, bank records, and 3 video clips. One was a hidden recording Dana confronting Chase after finding out about Taryn. You said she meant nothing, Dana had whispered. She does, Chase replied. But she is dumb enough to believe whatever I say. The moment hit me like a steel pipe. He had been running the same playbook for years, new city, new name, same script. And Taryn? She was not the first, just the next. That morning, I stared at her while she made Colt's lunch. She kissed his head, packed snacks, smiled like a mother from a magazine. And all I saw was betrayal. Not just of me, of her son. She had brought a predator into his life. And the moment she laughed at one of Chase's lies, she became part of it. I forwarded Dana's files to Brody with one sentence. Time to finish this. The plan had to be perfect. Public. Undeniable. Sharp. I coordinated with Brody and Dana down to the minute. We reviewed Chase's investor presentation slide by slide. Swapped the files he had sent to the Venue Tech crew with our version pixel for pixel identical until the reveal. We were using their own ego against them. Dana's voice would be pre-recorded over Chase's opening slide, spliced clean, starting with, "Let me tell you who this man really is." From there, the audio would play side by side with images, names, timestamps, emails, Chase's web unraveled in real time. And Taryn's name? Right there beside his on the shell companies and fake deals. We knew they would try to deny it. So we made sure the final slide was irrefutable, wiretap audio of Taryn saying, "Let him break first." Then we controlled the story. Brody had cleared it legally. We were not just aiming for emotional devastation. We were aiming for legal detonation. The night before the event, I sat with Colt on the back porch. He rested his head against my arm, watching fireflies blink under the stars. "Are you okay, Dad?" he asked. "Yeah," I said softly. "Everything is going to make sense really soon." He nodded. "I sleepy. Uncle Chase is not really nice, is he?" I looked at him, steady. "No, buddy. He is not." Colt yawned. "Will he go away?" "Yeah," I said. "He will. And when he does, he is taking your mother's mask with him." The irony was poetic. The investor event was scheduled for the same week as Colt's birthday. Taryn had been planning both like nothing was wrong. Ordering cake samples, texting guest lists, even picking out matching father-son shirts for Chase and Colt. I found the shirts hidden in her closet. Custom stitched. Best bonus dad, #1champ. Colt had no idea. He still drew stick figures of me holding his hand. Still looked for me in the stands at his baseball games. Still called me every night I was late. He had not chosen Chase. But Taryn had made that decision for him. I stared at those shirts for a long time. And that was when I knew the revenge was no longer just about exposing them. It was about protecting him. All of him. His heart. His trust. His future. So I added one more step to the plan. During the event, Brody would not just run the presentation. He would also forward a complete packet of evidence to Taryn's family, her office, her college alumni group, and every parent in Colt's school network. The goal? No escape, no spin, no more masks. I would let her stand in that room, proud and glowing, thinking she had secured a new life, a perfect partner, a fresh start, a lie wrapped in money. And then I would set it all on fire. Not because I was angry anymore, but because fire leaves nothing for them to crawl back into. The morning of the event, I let her think she won. I made coffee, folded her scarf, smiled when she walked downstairs in a sleek black suit that matched Chase's. They were matching now, publicly, like it meant something. Big day, I said. She kissed my cheek. Everything changes after today. She had no idea how right she was. She packed her laptop, checked her hair twice, texted Chase something she did not want me to see. I saw it anyway. We make it official after tonight? His reply, after the wire's clear. Then we run. She grabbed her bag. You sure you were okay staying back? Yeah, I nodded. You two go shine. She left with one last grin, keys jingling, heels clicking like victory. When the door shut, I walked to my office. Brody was already on the secure line. We are green, he said. Audio synced. Slide deck loaded. Trigger is yours. I opened the final folder. It was all there. Every detail. Every lie. I looked at Colt's photo on my desk. The one where he is grinning with a missing tooth, wearing my old seal cap way too big for his head. You ready, bud? I whispered. Because once this started, there was no going back. Not for her. Not for him. And not for me. The ballroom was gold and white. Chandeliers sparkling. Waiters circling with champagne. Real estate investors chatting about portfolios and property taxes. Chase stood at the front of the room in a navy blazer. Confident. Flashing that perfect snake smile. Taryn was beside him, nodding, charming, poised like a woman who believed she was about to become rich and respected. The projector screen glowed behind them. He tapped the mic. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Applause. I was not there in person. I did not need to be. Brody was in the control booth, laptop open, finger hovering over the sequence trigger. At 8:03 p.m., Chase clicked to the first slide. His photo. Then the screen flickered, just for a moment, before shifting to slide 2. Another photo. A mugshot. Chase's real face. Real name. Trevor Darrell Coleman. The room fell silent. People froze, glasses midair. Chase blinked. Technical issue, he mumbled, reaching for the laptop. Too late. Dana's voice played overhead, calm and sharp. Let me tell you who this man really is. Slide 3. Court records. Slide 4. Taryn's name, tied to LLCs and forged deals. Gasps. Whispers. Chase turned to Taryn. What is this? She looked pale. Shaking. I do not know. More slides. Hotel photos. Text screenshots. Wire transfer logs. Audio file. Taryn. Let him break first. Then we control the story. The final slide? To those who betray, he watched. He waited. He remembers everything. As the room erupted, I sat in silence. Colt was asleep upstairs. His breathing soft. Safe. I heard the phone ring, once. Twice. I let it. It rang again. Taryn's name flashing. I let it. The next call came from her mother. Then Chase. Then unknown numbers. I poured a glass of water and sat on the porch. Outside, the sky was clear. Cold breeze. Crickets. My phone buzzed once more. A message popped up from Taryn. What did you do? I typed nothing. Because if she did not know by now, she never really saw me at all. Brody texted next. Show's over. Homeland's involved. Chase ran. Taryn froze. Media picked it up already. I watched the stars a while longer. I did not feel joy or relief. I just felt still. The kind of still you only feel after you bury something deep enough that it stops breathing. And that is what this was. Not revenge. Not even justice. This was burial. Of a woman who chose lies. Of a man who preyed on families. And of a version of me that used to believe love could survive anything. He tried to recover. Even after the mugshot. Even after the audio. Chase stepped forward, adjusted the mic like a man still in control. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, this is a smear campaign. Someone with a grudge has faked every single. Dana stood up in the back of the room. You mean your wife? She called out, loud and clear. Gasps echoed across the crowd. You left me 3 months ago, she continued, holding up a thick binder. After you stole from our joint account and used my name on 2 of your fake LLCs. Chase's mouth opened. No words came out. Taryn grabbed his arm. Is this real? Is she telling the truth? He turned, snapped quietly. Not now. More murmurs. Phones buzzing. Guests pulling up Google searches. And there it was. Trevor Darrell Coleman. Fraud suspect. Under investigation. Previous settlements. 2 restraining orders. The room changed. From excited to uncomfortable. From admiring to disgusted. People started standing up. One of the investors pointed. That is my brother's old company. You promised a deal there. Another woman said, you used my name on a shared buyer form. Chase stumbled back. Taryn whispered, you told me this was all cleaned up. He just shook his head, as darting toward the exits. Dana spoke again. This man is a professional liar. And she helped him. Taryn flinched. The lights felt hotter now. The crowd grew louder. And somewhere in the control booth, Brody clicked one last slide onto the screen. Trust, once broken, is justice waiting to be served. Black screen. Silence. Then chaos. Security escorted them off stage. But not before the cameras flashed. A blogger in the front row live-streamed the entire scene. Another investor was already uploading photos to a subreddit titled Caught in the Act. Taryn's face was a perfect picture of collapse, sweat lining her forehead, makeup cracking around the edges, her mouth forming apologies no one wanted. She tried to speak to the organizers. This was not me. I had no idea. One of them held up the documents. Your signature's here. Twice. Her hands shook. She looked around for Chase, but he had already slipped out through the back, like a coward in a tailored suit. Reporters were waiting outside. Questions fired like bullets. Did you know about the shell accounts? Are you still with Chase? Did you coach your son to lie about your husband? She pushed through them. One microphone caught her voice. I made a mistake. I wanted a better life. Back in the parking garage, her phone rang nonstop. She dropped it. Her name was already trending. Not as a success, but as a story, as a warning. When she finally came home that night, it was nearly 1 a.m. The silence in the house was loud. She opened the front door slowly, keys trembling in her hand. Her heels were off, makeup smeared. She looked like someone who had walked through a storm barefoot. I was sitting in the dark, in the armchair, like I had been waiting. Because I had. She paused in the doorway. Dalton, I can explain. No, I said calmly. You cannot. She walked forward. I was stupid. I believed him. I thought, stop. She froze. You thought I was weak. That I would break quietly. She said nothing. You used our son. You used my absence. You gave another man my life, my house, my family. Her voice cracked. I did not mean, yes. I cut in, voice still low. You did. I stood up, walked past her, dropped a manila envelope on the table. Inside, the divorce papers, the full custody claim, the evidence files, and a note. You signed your future away the moment you betrayed your present. She did not cry. Not then, because she was still trying to think of a way out. But there was none. I walked upstairs, paused halfway. By the way, I said, without turning around. Colt knows. She collapsed into the chair behind her like the words had weight. And they did. Because now, she was not just caught. She was alone. Chase did not make it far. He slipped out the back of the investor event, dodged cameras, ditched his blazer in a trash bin, and vanished into the streets like a man used to disappearing. But not this time. Homeland agents were already waiting at his condo, alerted the moment the wire transfer hit and paused. The evidence was packaged, timed, and waiting. Thanks to Dana's deposition, it was bulletproof. He made it 3 blocks from the event before unmarked SUVs boxed him in. 2 officers approached. Trevor Darrell Coleman? He blinked, tried to lie. Bad move. They slammed him against the hood. Click. Click. Cuffs locked around his wrists. His face hit the news before he even got to holding. Real estate mogul exposed as con man. Arrested in $2.4 million fraud sting. Inside the station, Dana watched through a one-way mirror as he sat alone in the room, face blank, eyes glazed. He asked for Taryn. They told him she was not coming. She was not even answering calls. And outside, reporters camped on his driveway. 10 years of manipulation, undone in one night. The man who had charmed dozens, stolen millions, and convinced woman after woman to trust him? Now just a nameplate on a beige intake folder. Filed under federal fraud. 3 days later, Taryn showed up to mediation wearing the same mask. No makeup this time, just pale skin and silence. She barely looked at me, barely spoke. The judge reviewed the file. Brody helped prepare photos, financial records, audio evidence, timeline breakdowns. He looked up at her once. You willingly exposed your child to an individual with an extensive criminal record. Are you aware of the long-term emotional consequences of that? Taryn said nothing. She did not fight. She could not. I asked for full custody of Colt, with visitation based on therapist review. Approved. She nodded once. No argument. In that room, the strongest words came from silence. Later, in the hallway, she reached for me, not to touch, but to say something. Maybe an apology. Maybe a plea. But I walked past her without a word. Because some people do not deserve your voice anymore. And some betrayals are too big to narrate in past tense. It was a week later when I finally stood in the doorway of what used to be our bedroom. Taryn had moved out quietly, no scene, no tears, just boxes in the back of a rideshare van and a key left on the counter. The air inside the house was different now. Still, honest. Colt's laughter echoed through the hall as he chased the dog with a paper plane. No more late-night whispers. No fake perfume clinging to pillows. Just peace. I repainted the walls. Took down the old family photos and replaced them with new ones, just Colt and me at the beach, him holding a fishing rod, covered in dirt and joy. That night, Colt climbed into bed with me, half asleep. Dad? Yeah, buddy? Are you happy again? I paused. I think I am getting there. He curled in closer. I like it better this way. I smiled into the dark. Me too, son. Because the house may have been broken. But the man inside it was finally whole again. It came in the form of a letter, folded neatly in an envelope. Left in the mailbox, no stamp, no sender name. But I knew the handwriting the moment I saw it. Taryn. I stood at the kitchen counter, sunlight pouring in, Colt outside kicking a ball around. I unfolded it. Dalton, I know words cannot fix anything. I know I lost more than I can explain. I was weak. I let someone into a space that was supposed to be sacred. I thought I deserved more, and in chasing that, I lost everything that ever mattered. She went on for pages. Excuses dressed up as reflections. Guilt dripping through sentences like syrup, sweet, but heavy. At the end, she wrote, I hope one day Colt understands. I hope he forgives me. I folded the letter once. Then again, dropped it in the trash without a second read. Because forgiveness is not always earned just because someone finally feels regret. And I would not hand her peace just because she wanted to feel better. 2 weeks later, Colt's school hosted a Heroes in Our Lives project. Each child had to present someone they looked up to, someone they admired. I showed up early, sat in the back row quiet, watching. One kid chose his grandfather, another his big sister. Then it was Colt's turn. He walked to the front holding a cardboard cutout of a man in military gear painted in crayon with shaky letters underneath. My dad. Because he protects me without anyone knowing. He spoke soft at first, then louder. My dad used to be in the Navy. He is strong, but he does not yell. He watches. He listens. And even when people try to be mean to him, he stays calm. Some teachers smiled. One looked at me. He always tells the truth, Colt finished. Even when it is hard. And that makes him a hero to me. My throat tightened. Not because I needed praise. But because in all the chaos, in all the lies thrown at me, my son still saw the truth. And that was everything. The whispers started small. At the grocery store. At baseball practice. From neighbors who once nodded politely, but kept distance. Now they looked different. Some said nothing, just a nod, a longer glance. Others approached quietly. Dalton, I saw what happened online. That was unreal. You handled it like a damn chess master. One guy, Chase's old golf buddy, shook my hand at the gas station. I misjudged you, he said. You kept your mouth shut while they buried themselves. I did not smile, because I had not done it for approval. I had done it for peace. But something had shifted. I was no longer the quiet guy with scars and discipline. Now I was something else, the man who saw everything and waited. And in this town, that kind of silence was terrifying. I did not plan to visit. But Dana called me. He asked for you. Just once. I will not blame you if you say no. I said nothing at first. Then I drove to the detention center. He looked smaller in orange. Sitting behind the glass, chained at the ankles, eyes dulled from isolation. I picked up the phone. He stared at me a second before speaking. You ruined me. I leaned forward. No, I said. You ruined you. I just let the truth breathe. He scoffed. You think you won? I did not need to win, I said calmly. I just needed to make sure you lost. Silence. Then he asked, how's Taryn? Exactly where she put herself. He looked down. Smirked, bitter. You were never the threat, he muttered. It was the quiet. You never broke. I stood up. That is the thing about men like me, I said. We do not need to break anything. We wait. And then I walked away. No gloating. No victory speech. Because the cage was doing all the talking. The silence in the house had changed. It used to feel hollow. Like something missing. Like a wound waiting to be noticed. Now, it felt honest. Clean. The kind of quiet that came when the storm had passed and nothing fake was left standing. I repainted Colt's room. He chose the color, electric blue. I let him help roll the walls, even when he made a mess. Paint streaked across the floor, on his elbow, even in his hair. He laughed so hard he cried. That night, we laid on his bed, the ceiling fan spinning slow above us. Can we keep it just us? He asked. Forever. I smiled. It will always be us. He nodded, pulling the covers to his chin. I do not miss her. I hesitated, then said the truth. Me neither. The next morning, I moved my things into the master bedroom again. Took down the last framed photo of the three of us. Replaced it with one of Colt and me at the lake, fishing rod in one hand, sandwich in the other, sun burning the top of our heads. I did not need to erase her from the past, but she would not define our future, because this house used to hold secrets. Now, it only held us. It happened quietly, the way most endings do. Colt was packing his school bag when he paused, pulled something from a side pocket, a small photo. One I had never seen. It was a snapshot of him with Chase. At the ballpark. Colt mid-laugh, Chase behind him holding a glove. He stared at it for a long time, then walked over and handed it to me. Can we throw this away? I took the photo gently. You sure? He nodded. He was never really my uncle. He just pretended. I said nothing. Just dropped the picture into the kitchen trash and let the lid close slow. Colt turned back to his bag like it never happened. But I stood there another minute. Because that simple moment? That was everything. It was not just Colt letting go of a lie. It was Colt taking back his story. And that was the kind of healing no court could order. No letter could beg for. No apology could ever buy. That was real. The local paper called a week later. Some journalist wanted a follow-up. Said the story had gone viral online. That people were calling it the cleanest revenge in years. I declined the interview. Because this was never about revenge. This was about survival. About protecting a boy from a world that almost taught him to smile at liars. One of the reporters said to me, "You must have snapped." Most guys would have lost their minds. I just shook my head. Seals don't snap, I said. We observe. We endure. Then we finished the mission. I went home that night to the smell of pasta cooking. Colt was stirring the pot, apron hanging off one shoulder, noodles flying everywhere. He looked up. Did you used to do stuff like this when you were a soldier? Not even close, I laughed. But this might be harder. He grinned, proud of himself. That was the win. Not the expose. Not the arrest. Not the silence. It was this, a boy, a home, a future. Intact. Unbroken. And mine. The sun was setting slow, soft orange bleeding into blue. Colt sat beside me on the porch steps, legs swinging, popsicle dripping onto his shirt. The same porch where Chase once tried to offer me a beer, where Terrence stood pretending everything was fine. Now it was just us. Colt leaned against me. You think Mom's okay? It was not judgment. Just a boy asking about the woman who gave him life, even if she broke it for a while. I took a breath. I think she's learning what happens when you stop being honest. He nodded slowly. You still mad? I shook my head. Mad is for people who want payback. I already got peace. He looked up at me with those same calm eyes. You're different now, but in a good way. I smiled. How's that? You laugh more. You don't look tired when you smile. And you don't check your phone all the time. That one hit me. Because he was right. I used to walk around waiting for the next lie to land. The next shift in tone. The next text I was not supposed to see. Now I just lived. We watched the sky fade together. And in that moment, I realized something. I was no longer the man who came home from war hoping to hold a family together. I was the man who survived a different kind of war, one built on secrets, manipulation, betrayal. And somehow, I won. Not because I destroyed them, but because I saved us. Colt's laughter echoed from upstairs. He was building a pillow fort, yelling orders like a tiny general. Life had rhythm again. School runs, game nights, burnt pancakes on Sundays. One afternoon, I found an old note taped to the fridge, drawn in bright markers. World's strongest dad, not because of my muscles, because of my silence, because I never snapped, because I waited. The world may never clap for men like me, the ones who fight wars no one sees, who sit through lies, who let the enemy believe they have already won, and still walk away with the truth intact. But that is the kind of strength I want to pass on to my son. Not rage, but resilience. Because here is what I learned through it all, and I hope you remember this wherever you are. Betrayal does not define you. How you recover does. Revenge fades, but character stays. And now I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. I really want to know which cities, countries, places this story reached. And if this story hit you hard, if you felt even one scene deep in your chest, like it, share it, subscribe, but not just for me. Do it because stories like this deserve to be remembered. We will meet again soon, in the next thriller, in the next betrayal, in the next epic revenge that ends not with blood, but with truth. Until then, take care of your peace, and protect it like it is all you have, because sometimes it is. The end.